Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3, the final part for today for Wednesday, June 12th, 2013. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com, and on YouTube my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. Alright, most but not all the headlines and links will be posted in YouTube's video description by tomorrow evening. So, Russia passes anti-gay bill. Are they anti-gay? I mean, are they going to export or in jail, imprison gays? No. Are they for promoting, basically? That's what I'm getting at. Overrepresenting and promoting homosexuality. Are they against that? Yes. But, this is how they'll title it. 436-0. That's how it was voted. So, I would say it's pretty much a consensus. Activists beaten, arrested as harsh bill sails through the lower halls. So, this stuff does occur, but, this stuff always occurs and has occurred. But they like to highlight this stuff in the Western media because they think that the entire world is on board with this homosexual, transgender agenda. So today is not a great day to wake up gay. In Russia, the country's lower house yesterday passed a bill to stigmatize gay people and bans giving children any information about homosexuality. Basically, they don't want to brainwash their children into telling them that this is all A-OK and everything, and this is normal. How it passed is nearly as notable as what it contains, 436-0 without a single abstention. So, according to Reuters, the bill bans the propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations and makes holding gay pride rallies a crime punishable with a $156 fine. So, still needs to be passed by the upper house and signed by Putin. So, it says here they before the vote, the gay rights activists attempted to hold a kissing rally outside the parliament. So, says they got for their troubles pelted with rotten eggs and homophobic slurs by 200 anti-gay protesters who yelled, "Russia is not Sodom," talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. So, it's pretty interesting that they actually would do something like this, and that these people will still go out there and protest. I mean, you're a minority. You're not being overrepresented like in America and Europe, where it's being pushed on everybody. It's not so much that I hate gays. I'm just sick of having it shoved down my throat, and everybody else is too. Thousands marched through Moscow against Putin. So, several thousand people marched through Moscow on Wednesday to support detained or jailed anti-Kremlin protesters. President Putin accuses U.S. of supporting Russia opposition activists. So, Putin has accused the United States of meddling in Russia's politics by backing opposition activists in the country, and he would be 100% correct in saying that. Like I said before, we've covered articles where the quote opposition protesters were filing into the State Department, U.S. Embassy. So, says here, diplomatic service doesn't cooperate actively with the Occupy Wall Street activists, yet your diplomatic service actively cooperates with Russia's opposition and supports them. This is not right because diplomatic services should be building relations between the states and not getting involved in their internal political affairs. When demonstrators break the country's law, the government has to use legal methods to put everyone in the legislative field. This is what's happening both in the U.S. and in Russia, but when we do it, we are criticized, but when the U.S. does it, it is considered the norm. These are so-called double standards. And I think I got this word pronounced correctly. Meet the Antigones and antidote to breast-bearing terrorist group FEMEN. Of course, these are the terrorists that have raided Russia and parts of Europe. The breast-bearing self-styled female terrorist group FEMEN, which has become known as the world over for its provocative, often violent protests against patriarchy, fascism, prostitution, and religion, seem to have met its match. They're named after the woman of Greek mythology. It says here in a play, was sentenced to death for choosing to follow divine law in opposition to man-made laws of a tyrant. Consists of a group of 25 or so attractive French women clad in virginal white dresses. French mayor refuses to marry homosexual couple and risks years in jail. So the mayor of a small town in France's Basque region has announced his refusal to carry out a marriage between two men who reside in his jurisdiction, becoming the first mayor to defy the country's new law that applies the name and rights of matrimony to couples of the same sex. Patrick Leahy introduces amendment to include same-sex couples in immigration reform. So moving down here, it says here that a Democrat from Vermont took a stand in favor of the rights of binational same-sex couples Wednesday by filing a floor amendment to the immigration reform bill currently making its way through Congress. So, you know, there's not enough issues. You got to throw that guy in there too. You got to throw that in there with the whole thing, right? Amendment would ensure that same-sex partners of American citizens can remain in the U.S. without fear of being separated and deported by the government. So, seeking equal protection under our laws for LGBT community is the right thing to do. City Councilman proposes allowing non-citizens to vote in local election. So they say taxpayers deserve the right to vote. It says here there's a push in New York City Council to allow non-U.S. citizens to vote in citywide elections. Pope confirms gay lobby at work in the Vatican. So it says here Pope Francis lamented that a gay lobby was at work in the Vatican in private remarks to the leadership of the key Latin American church group, a stunning acknowledgement that appears to confirm earlier reports about corruption and dysfunction in the Holy See. Iran's new ambassador to the Vatican presents credentials to the Pope. So it goes on here and it says that Pope Francis I is a humble man who lives a simple life. His words and his message are addressed to the poor, the people from slums, and those who are in need of spiritual support, particularly in tough times that we are going through. This is Mohammed Rabbani, the new ambassador for Iran to the Holy See. Said here he is trying to set an example with his humble behavior and reduce the distance between the church and the people. Study says same-sex marriage has no effect on opposite marriage of basically. So supporters of same-sex marriage have long argued that their foes were irrational because allowing gay and lesbian couples to wed had no impact on straight couples, thanks to research. ADL Spies says here that in a letter from Benjamin Epstein, National Director, Anti-Defamation League, to Saul Joftis, Executive Secretary, B'nai B'rith, July 1961, the ADL for many years has maintained a very important confidential investigative coverage of Arab activities and propaganda. Our information, in addition to being essential for our own operations, has been of great value and service to both the U.S. State Department and the Israeli government. All data have been made available to both countries with full knowledge to each that we were the source. Standing next to the ADL's current national director, Abe Foxman, Vice President Biden, who got paid to give a speech saying how great Israel was, told the 1,000 paying guests, "You have become the conscience of the country. No matter what the issue, you have been a pillar of the Jewish community, but you reach out and you have reached out, basically your embrace for all communities." I think actually Biden actually said too how much of an impact Israel and Jews have had on American culture. So it says here in 93, basically police had raided ADL's Northern California office, discovered it was keeping files of more than 600 largely liberal civic organizations and 10,000 individuals whose interests and activities included but also went far beyond those of Arab American communities. We'll keep moving for time's sake, so just stick with me here. Prince Harry saved me from homophobic attack during Alberta training soldier, reveals. So it goes on here. It says the British Army's first openly gay soldiers had made public another side of the prince's Canadian sojourn, saying that Harry helped thwart a potential gay bashing by his fellow soldiers while they were at Suffield. So the revelation is made in Lance Corporal James Wharton's memoir, Out in the Army, My Life as a Gay Soldier. He says that he was infuriated after 6 infantry sergeants, after boasting about his sexual prowess. Oh, it says here he had infuriated these sergeants after boasting about his sexual prowess. He was expecting to be beaten up, but Prince Harry diffused the situation and warned the soldiers to leave the gay trooper alone. So it says here that he added that the prince on another occasion told him that he was told he and his older brother William were gay icons. Syphilis rates at epidemic proportions among Vancouver gay bisexual men. So the Health and Center, basically CDC, it says here they've issued a warning that syphilis infections in homosexual and bisexual men have soared to their highest levels in more than 30 years in the Vancouver area, followed by students share HIV STD statuses via text messages. So again, instead of just not promoting this lifestyle, i.e., you probably shouldn't be having promiscuous sex while you're a teenager. Well, they're going to do it anyway, so let's give them an application on their iPhone so they can find abortion clinics. Let's make sure that, like Obama just signed, that they have access to the morning after pill of all ages. And now they have this. LA School District is taking part in a program to educate middle and high school students about how to share their HIV and STD statuses with their cell phones. Says the website is being offered as an added sex education resource. So it's posters in the classrooms encouraging students to utilize the tool as a supplement. Swedish male train drivers wear skirts to work. Commuters on a train line in northern Stockholm were met with an unusual sight this week. It says here male train drivers and conductors wearing skirts to work. So it says here that it's basically the train company's uniform policy. My comments are, I've been to Australia. It's freaking hot there. They can still look professional with wearing shorts and all that. But this is Sweden. It's not Australia. And, Sweden, like many other places, it's about feminizing men. I'm not talking about, the days of wearing kilts and stuff like that, but anything that feminizes men will be promoted. Sweden itself is a multicultural kind of sexual preference experiment. So it says here, I'm not a big Bible thumper. I'm not a Bible thumper at all. I just came across this Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman must not wear men's clothing, nor a man wear women's clothing, for the Lord your God detests anyone who does. Well, I had my other reasons, but I thought I'd throw it in there for some of my viewers. Let transgender people choose their bathrooms. So it says here, a court in Maine heard arguments today in the case of a 15-year-old student who is biologically male but identifies as a female. So maybe when they're doing the sex education, they can give them a simple biological lesson that, actually you may identify, but you're not. Sorry. Nicole Maines, so it almost sounds like, Nicole Maines from Maine, it sounds like it's a whole CIA operation or PSYOP or something. Wanted to use the girls' bathroom, but her school forbade it. So that's a next frontier of the civil rights movement is transgender and transsexual equality, writes the UCLA professor. Says in a nation evolved enough to allow women to serve in combat and have women as a presidential ticket, we will maintain strict and outdated rules that discriminate those who basically want to use the restroom. So again, this is all through engineer consent. This wasn't anything that came from the grassroots. It was engineer consent to redesign society. New York City teacher tells kids to write suicide notes. She joined by a second entrant to the Teacher Hall of Infamy this week. Another report, local, says that a French teacher apparently decided that his math class needed a lesson in sadism on Monday. Allegedly showed his 11-year-old students the film Saw, telling them that this will be your first horror film. He received a one-day suspension. Yeah, how about, I think it was in Britain, but maybe it was here in the U.S. It was a teacher that was actually having the students write a paper or an essay on basically government officials having the authority to shoot protesters. Why it would be morally acceptable. So this county public school has denied a request to remove a suspension from the record of this elementary school student suspended in March for biting his breakfast pastry into the shape of a gun. So it says here the county school spokesman called the incident a confidential student matter and declined to comment. So it's about setting a precedent, scaring everybody else. 11-year-old suspended because he said gun. So this is where you go. Maryland boy was suspended from school for 10 days last December for telling other students that he wished he had a gun to protect the students who were killed at the Sandy Hook massacre. The suspension was later reduced to 1 day. The school bus driver overheard the boy use the word gun, then took him to the principal. So, good slave. Safe Government survey finds parents want to ban online data tracking in schools. Good luck with that. National surveys revealed parents overwhelmingly object to children's data being tracked by private companies. This is, I think it's from Australia. Most Americans oppose U.S. spy scheme, says poll. They disapprove of the U.S. government spying on phone records of ordinary citizens. Again, good luck. All of a sudden, sales of Orwell's 1984 up 6,000% after NSA news. U.S. will persist with NSA surveillance programs despite public backlash. Of course, this is part of engineering consent. You're seeing it. NSA Director Alexander calls Snowden's claim about total wiretapping false. So this guy lied twice, publicly, flat out lied twice. So I wouldn't put too much into what he says. Few options for online users to avoid spying, says the expert. So says, what can people do to protect their privacy? The answer is not much, short of going off the grid completely. Majority of Americans support phone spying. Is that true? Probably not. But see, they just put out these fudge polls, and they say, hey, okay, I guess everybody else is. It's called axe conformity. The peer pressure of conforming to the group will make people give the wrong answer. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.